Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you again. Hope you're doing well. Today we're going to do a little bit of music. Are you excited about that? I'm excited about that. I'm a musician. I've been playing for, now math. I've been playing for like 40 years-ish in music, and I play a variety of instruments, and one of them that I love playing is the drums. Now, why? Because you get to hit things with sticks. Like what? Like, that's the best ever. Hit things with sticks. It's awesome. The only thing that sucks about drums is packing it all up and moving it. Oh, such a pain in the butt. But there's two butts in a row. It is fun to play drums. And I love playing drums. And I remember when I first started playing drums, I was crap. I was terrible. But I just worked on it over time. And again, I'm no amazing drummer. And I'm not famous for it, but I do enjoy it. It's a good workout. It's good for your legs and your coordination. There's a lot of benefits to it. It unlocks a part of your brain that you don't usually get to use very often. And it's all about coordination. It's all about different things happening at different times. Translates into me driving a standard transmission car. Your feet are doing things. Your hands are doing things. You just get to be able to do multiple things at once. And when you're learning how to play drums, you kind of sound very basic. And it kind of relates back to podcasting. Really, as we're learning to podcast, we are really basic. We really are figuring out our rhythm. We're trying to figure out who we are and what we sound like and find our voice. There's a lot of things going on while we're on the microphone. And when you listen back to people's early episodes, you can tell everything is very rote. Everything is very structured. And everything is very short and concise and to the point and their words don't flow because we really haven't found our voice yet. And what I find when I talk to new podcasters is they're on a journey to find their voice and they're getting frustrated because they hear other people doing it and they do it so well, but they're at the basic beginning level and they forget that everybody, including the best drummer in the world, had a day one. They had a pick up the sticks and how do I do this? Pick up a microphone as a podcaster and how do I do this? Everybody had a day one. So please don't compare your day one to somebody's day 5,000. That's not fair to you because you don't learn through the process of seeing somebody do it well and then get down on yourself. You have to learn from the beginning. So we're going to pick up our sticks and I want to show you what I mean by playing a little bit of drum tracks in the background. These are friends of mine. These are not me playing. These are my friends. But I just wanted you to kind of get a sense of what the basics sound like in drumming. We'll bring it over to podcasting, don't worry. And then I want you to feel what it feels like to get a rhythm and a groove to what you do so you can compare and contrast. Just so you know, you can do this. And it's time to jump in. We're going to use some drum tracks to kind of help reinforce what we're talking about here. But we want to talk about getting from a monotone presentation in your podcast, very kind of to more of a dialogue with your listener. Even if it's just a solo episode, it's just you talking to your computer screen like I'm doing right now. How do you bring you out and get away from the script and get to be a little more groove in your step as a podcaster in the mic and how you present yourself? All that on the How to Podcast series today. Excited to have you here. You ready? Grab your sticks. Let's get ready to play. Okay, so when you start out in podcasting or learning to play the drums, it kind of sounds like this at the beginning. Okay, it's pretty straightforward, right? This is very basic. Snare, hi-hat, kick drum, not a lot. You start to develop a little bit more, and you move up to something a little bit more like this. Now you get a little bit more to it, right? Again, very basic. This is like drumming 101. So this is where you start. This is what you sound like when you start. It's not going to be amazing, but it's the start. That's the thing you need to understand about when you learn an instrument, for example, the drums, the guitar, piano, whatever. There's a starting point. You're going to do some things that are super simple. at the beginning. And you got to just get everything working. All the muscles have to work. All the things have to happen. And you got to get to understand the instrument. You have to understand you and what you sound like and who you are. There's a lot of things going on at once, right? You're using multiple things and it's all happening in real time. When you start a podcast, you're going to sound really basic. You're going to sound like stiff. You're going to sound like you don't know what you're doing. And people get nervous about that. They want to sound great. They want to sound perfect. Now, I want to sound perfect as well. I want to do my best. But there's an education that happens. We call it in music muscle memory. And that's simply being that we go to rehearsals, we practice on our own, we do our scales, we do our drills, we do our things, and they become tools in our toolbox. So the best drummer, the best guitar player, the best keyboardist, singer, they've put a lot of time and effort off the stage, outside of the studio, to be good at their instrument, their voice, their talents, their abilities. They've invested time outside of the limelight, outside of the spotlight, when nobody heard them, nobody saw them. They spent time developing their craft. Okay? Now, you see them on stage and go, oh my gosh, I wish I was them. But they're in the process of learning, and they've just spent more time learning than you have. That's the only difference. Some are naturally gifted. Some people can just get up and do something, and you're like, oh my gosh. And they're like, yeah, I don't even practice. Right? I'm a skinny guy. I can eat food and I don't gain weight. I don't even exercise and I'm just skinny all the time. It's just who I am. I just can't be anything else. That's my body. So musicians, they learn, they grow. For the most part, we teach ourselves how to do this. We have people who help us. We get coaches. We get lessons. We have somebody on our side. If you need that for podcasting, I'm always here for that. But as musicians, we have to find somebody who's better than we are and learn from them. That's one thing that we look for. We look for teachers. Podcasting is the same thing. You don't just buy a microphone on Amazon and now you're perfect and you know exactly what you're doing. I can't just walk into my local music store, purchase a set of drums or a guitar or a piano, and then now I'm an expert because I bought something. No, those are tools. You still have to develop yourself. You have to figure out your voice to get from the basics to something a little bit more intricate and more interesting than something that's pretty straightforward and basic. So how does this all relate to podcasting? Okay, I'm glad you asked. We want to take you from how you present yourself on microphone, from something that sounds very basic, akin to the drum track you just heard, to something a little bit more with more groove, more feeling of human connection. There's a difference between an audiobook, which is someone reading word for word exactly what was written on the page to you in an audio format. That's an audiobook. There's not a lot of freedom in there. As someone who voices an audiobook, you have to read the words. Sure, you can add some inflection, you can add a little bit of this or that, but the words are the words, and you're reading the words. Now, if that's what it takes for you to start your show, then read the words. Use a script. Read what's written in front of you. That is awesome. We need you in podcasting. So if you're like, I can't just off the cuff do what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting in front of you as a listener. I have nothing in my hands. I have no paper in front of me. I'm just talking to you, just you and me, as if we were at like a coffee shop and talking about podcasting. That's what I'm doing right now. I have zero notes. I have my phone is on silent. I have a can of Coca-Cola open in front of me, half-drink cup of coffee, and a highlighter, and my keyboard, and my mic. And I'm just talking to you. This comes over time. This is not something you just naturally can do off the top of your head unless you have some kind of special gift. Most of us don't have that. So it takes time and practice. We start with the simple drum beats. We start with the simple way of doing it. And for you, if following a script is the way you're going to start, then please start. Do exactly what you need to do. I'm talking about how you can go from starting with a script to something maybe a little more engaging for your audience. Now, one of my favorite movies is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a movie you just have to watch. And in there's a teacher that is teaching a class, and the faces of everybody as they listen to this teacher are so cool because they're totally zoned out. Some are sleeping, some are just staring into the abyss. And if you've ever been in a class with a teacher who is not engaging with your students and they're just kind of doing the thing, they don't care if there's one student there or nobody or 10. They're just going to do their thing. They don't care. They're just going to get through the topic, and right, they don't care about you as a listener. I hear this in podcasting because I have the same feeling like I'm being talked to. Again, audiobook. I'm being talked to. Comparison to being talked and brought into the conversation when the host actually acknowledges my presence. There's a difference, right? We want to be engaging and bring people in. So here's a little clip from the movie, just the part where the teacher is talking to the class, just to highlight what boring can sound like, what disengagement can sound like when your audience checks out and nobody's really engaged with you. And it feels like, as a listener, we're not important to you because you don't even address us. You don't even bring us into the conversation. You're just there to talk. So this is my example of something that's a little disengaging. And we're going to wrap back up here with something we can do to get better at engaging with our audience. But yeah, here's a little clip from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a teacher that doesn't really connect with his audience.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? The Great Depression, passed the, anyone? A tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which, anyone, raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression.
So you remember that teacher then, right? You've been in that class. I know you've been in that class where you're like, you're done. You're checked out. You don't even know what they just said. And then they point at you and they ask you for your thoughts or your question. You're like, I don't even know what we're talking about. Right? You've been in that class. I know you have. I have. I've been in that class. Now, and put that in a podcasting context. When you press play on an episode and that's the experience you get from the host, where it seems like it doesn't even matter if they have an audience because they're just going to talk about whatever they talk about and they don't seem to engage at all. I want to get us from the basics of reading and disconnection to more of a connection one-on-one with our listener. Now, I've heard this many times. We do not speak like we write or write like we speak. When we write, we use all of the different rules about writing and how to craft a great sentence or a paragraph. We use our commas or periods or colons and semicolons. There's lots of rules to how you write, but when you speak, there's something different that happens. When we look at how things are written, it doesn't translate verbally all the time in a connected way. And what I'm trying to get you to do as a podcaster to think about how you can get beyond the script, how you can get beyond doing a monologue where you're reading to your audience, and then more of a dialogue. Even though you can't hear the voice of your listener, I can't hear your voice right now. I don't know what you're doing. I have no idea. And I'm recording this in the past. So yeah, there's nobody here. My cat's sleeping. I put her to sleep. That's it. Just me and my cat. I have no context and content that I can exchange with you because you're not here. But I'm recording it as if you were instead of reading to you. And I think that's the one thing we need to do is we need to get beyond being tied to the rules, which are the drum beats I shared at the beginning, that very simple drum beat, to more of something that flows. But keep in mind, you can't get to the flow part where you can talk and do your thing without the basics. So you have to start here before you can get to the next thing. You have to start somewhere. And for some of us in our podcast journey, That's going to take some time. Don't rush it. Don't be in a hurry to get to the finish line, because the beauty of podcasting is the growth that's going to happen for you as a person over time. So it might sound like you're doing the basics right now, but you can't get to the good stuff until you master the basics. You have to learn the basics to understand how to be better and how to grow. So we talked about the basics, but here's an example of something with a little more groove. You ready? Okay. Do you hear that? See it? Little bits here and there. That comes after practice. That comes after time and effort and growth and learning your instrument. Practice, practice, practice. So what I hear from podcasters is they want to start at the finish line where everyone else has put time and effort, they've grown, they've developed their talent, they've practiced, they've been on the mic for years. They want to start where people have the finish line, where people have got to without doing all the hard work at the beginning. It takes time to get to this. It's not something that's just going to happen for you. This is something that's developed over time. So if this is your idea of where a drummer starts, this is not where drummers start. Drummers start at the beginning. And I want you to understand that your journey is just starting as a podcaster. Your journey is just beginning. So don't rush it and do the basics well. So here we go. We're going to talk more about monologue to dialogue here in that podcast series. Practicing speaking and podcasting offers numerous benefits for improving our delivery and connecting with our audience. So I wanted to share some ideas with you on how you can enhance your skills and create more engaging podcast, content creation, speaking engagements, how you can engage better with your audience. The benefits of practice. Okay, we talked about that with the drummers. The benefits of practice are the growth that happens. There's more fluency with how you speak and how you present yourself. Regular practice helps you to become more comfortable with speaking and sharing your thoughts with the world. By rehearsing both with and without a script, you can develop a more natural speaking rhythm, which is different than reading out loud. You can reduce your filler words and your pauses. You can improve your ability to articulate complex ideas more clearly. You've thought through what you're going to say and then you say it. It also helps you with your confidence. And as you practice, you'll be able to gain more confidence in your ability to communicate more effectively, which could help you at work, could help you with your relationships with your family, your kids, your partner. There's benefits to this beyond podcasting. And this confidence is going to be there and it's going to show through your voice, making your podcast more engaging and more authoritative. People are going to be like, oh my gosh, they're talking to me. That's what you want. Instead of, oh, they're talking at me. There's a difference to me and at me. So please, we want to get from the at me to the to me as fast as possible. And that's going to take time and practice. So the more you do it, the better. It also helps us to refine our content delivery. Practice allows you to identify areas where your content needs clarification. It helps you to develop better transitions between topics. And it also helps you to improve your ability to emphasize key points. See what I did there? It helps you in your delivery to practice, practice, practice. So podcasting versus audio narration. What's the difference, Dave? And I've been working with a client on this as they're trying to get beyond the script. They want to get into a more engaging conversation with their listener, whether it's an interview with a guest or just a solo episode one-on-one with a listener. You need as a podcaster, as a speaker, you need a conversational tone to your voice. And I think when we read a script, we lose this ability to feel conversational in our presentation. And that's what makes people tune out. Back to the teacher in the classroom. There was no conversational tone to that. It was just a verbal dump of information. So unlike audio narration, podcasting aims to be more conversational in how it's done, and the approach, the personal approach that's wrapped up in podcasting. When you're podcasting, you need to be more relaxed and more informal in your presentation. Not so buttoned up, not so stiff, not so tied to the words, but talking as if you would talk to your friend. When you talk to your friend at coffee around the dinner table, you're not like reading to them your answers. You're having a conversation. You're looking at them. There's pauses, there's gaps, there's tangents, there's things that you do just in normal conversation. Bring that into your podcast. It'll help you to connect with your audience better. It also allows, when you get into a conversational tone, that there's more spontaneity, there's more natural speech patterns than to be word, 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 word as you read. The other benefit to all this is your engagement with your audience. Podcasts are designed to feel like a conversation with your listener. To achieve this, you need to address your audience directly using you, for example. What are you thinking? How would you do this? What are your thoughts on this topic? Instead of general, vague terms for everybody. You're going to hear me say that in the show if you haven't listened in the past. I do sometimes say everybody, you guys, things like that. That's naturally how I talk in real life. I understand there's only one person listening to my show at a time. I get that. And I try to be more conscious of speaking to you, listening to me right now more directly. But I also want you to understand that you're part of a bigger community as well. It's not just you and me here. There's a bunch of people who listen to the show, and I want you to understand you're part of a bigger group. So I do occasionally throw in some more open terms when I'm referring to my listeners and my listener. It's a balance. It's how I am as a person. So I'm not going to shut that off. I'm going to keep it in because that's me. That's how, if you meet me in person, that's how I talk. Pose questions or scenarios to your listeners to consider how they would address something, how they would respond. That's a great way to interact as an engagement play. But the biggest thing, that the beauty of podcasting, is being able to share relatable experiences that resonate with your audience. Like the teacher we shared earlier. I'm sure you can put yourself in that classroom. I can. The biggest thing about podcasting is that our superpower is the ability to talk to our audience. Talking with them and sharing the conversation. You need to be able to visualize your listener. Now, how do you do that? Some people will print a picture of an ideal listener. They'll get a teddy bear and prop it up by their monitor and talk to the teddy bear. There's a lot of different things you can do to visualize the fact that somebody's here with you. And over time, those things will fall away. You might not need them anymore. But right now, maybe that's something that will be helpful for you. So pick something you can focus on. Imagine you're speaking to one single person rather than a huge, large audience. This is not 10,000 people. This is one person. It helps you to create a more intimate and engaging tone, and you slow down a little bit. Try to use inclusive language when you're speaking and addressing your audience as well, which doesn't always come through in the written word voiced in an audiobook, for example. So when you say things like, let's explore this together, or I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, howtopodcast.ca, reach out. I'd love to hear your voice. Or you might be wondering, what's the best microphone for your podcast? You might be questioning, am I even any good at this? Those are ways of addressing you. And you're like, yeah, that's me. Wherever you can, share your personal insights. Share things that are uniquely you that no one else has ever experienced, or your take on something and your view of the world or the topic or whatever you're talking about. Don't just present information like the teacher. Offer your own thoughts and experiences and the things you've seen or how passionate you are about something. It comes in your voice. The passion. Oh, I can't believe this happened to me. Right? Those are things that are only you can do that because it's something that resonates with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, it's probably not going to resonate with your audience. This helps listeners to connect with you more on a personal level. The other thing you can do, and we do it here in the How to Podcast series, is just to encourage interaction. We do that through our question of the month. We do that through the reaching out through our SpeakPipe on our website or email or whatever you want to do. You can always reach the show. You can always reach me directly. I don't have a team, just me. So anytime you reach out, I'm the one answering. Ask your listeners, your audience, the people that listen to your show for their opinion, their experiences. Ask them to answer a question. Put something out in front of them that requires an action from them. Encourage them to reach out on social media or SpeakPipe or buy me a coffee. These are all things that people can do to reach out and engage with you on your show. And then address any listener questions or comments that come into you on future episodes. Do it. Reach out. Share. And include your audience whenever you can. So by implementing all of these strategies and consistently practicing your craft, you can transform your podcast from a one-way monologue where you just talk at your audience into a more engaging conversation that resonates with your audience. Remember, the goal is to create a connection that makes your listeners feel like they're part of a meaningful dialogue, not just a passive recipient of information coming from your podcast. So here's the challenge. You may be starting with a basic drum beat. You start your podcast, you do the thing, but I want to see you grow from that to something that's a little more engaging, something that's got some more feel to it. Come on, right? That's way more engaging for your audience. And it only happens with practice. And it happens by getting a good teacher, getting somebody in your corner who's been doing it longer or can point out ways to make it easier for you. But the biggest thing that will get you to this finish line is practice. And nobody's going to practice for you. There's no AI tool that can make you sound more human, to make you feel more relaxed. The best way to get to that point is to practice. To record your next episode, put it out there, get feedback, get some thoughts, listen back to it. How can I make it 1% better every time? And over time, you'll go from the basic to some more groovy feel. And if you need help with your podcast and you're hearing this going, oh, yeah, I need to talk to somebody, in the show notes for the How to Podcast series, in our episodes, there's a calendar link there that's just for you. Nobody else has access to this. It's not on my website. It's not in my emails. It's nowhere else. It's only there for you. Click it, jump in my calendar. Let's jump on a Zoom call together, have a conversation. Happy to do this. It's free. And I'd love to talk to you about your show, how we can help each other, and maybe even come on the show and talk about your podcast. I would love to have you come on as well. That would be great. If we can promote you in the process, that's a huge win. And I'd love for more people to fall in love with you and your show because you're doing the hard work behind the scenes. Just like every musician and singer you've ever seen on stage, you're doing the hard work by being here, by investing in yourself, getting more knowledge, and putting in the time on the mic. Over time, you will go from basic to something a little bit more interesting and a little more captivating. It takes time. So please don't rush it. Put in the chops, put in the time. And if you need help, howtopodcast.ca. We'd love to help you. Looking forward to having you back for the next episode. Take care. So you're a podcaster and you podcast alone. You are in your home, you're in your studio, you're in your closet, and you podcast. And you put everything out there in the world and you're thinking, man, I'd love to meet another podcaster and not feel so alone. I wish there was a way to meet up with other podcasters and talk about my journey, ask my questions in a safe place where others there are also podcasters at different levels. Some people have been doing this a long time. Maybe some podcasters are brand new like me. And I'd love to be able to ask questions and do community with others. Maybe find a guest for my show or be a guest and ask a question that's bothering me about podcasting that I haven't seen or heard or got an answer to. I wish there was a group for me. Dave, do you know of a group where they do all of that and they do group hugs, virtual group hugs? Yeah, we do. It's our meetup. And you know, guess what? You're invited to come to our meetups. They are amazing. Not because of me by any stretch of imagination. It's because they're great because of the people who show up. You're going to meet some of the nicest podcasters you've ever met. There's no judgment. There's no talking down to you. It's not about me. It's about the group. And there's many times where I don't even have to talk. Each of the people coming bring great expertise and insights that can help you grow your show, to help you be a better person. And they're there to support you. It's our meetups, and you can find them at their howtopodcast.ca website. Come join us. There's over 200 people in our group, and we'd love to have you there. Lots of room for you. Come be a part of our meetups and meet other podcasters. Don't do it alone. Podcasting should never be done alone. Come join us. howtopodcast.ca. See you at our meetups.